Social Work England increased their fees. Is it fair? Is it sustainable? And what can we do about it? If you're seeing me for the first time, my name is Lisa Rann Edwards, social worker for over a decade, and I am your social work coach. I empower social workers to thrive with one-to-one coaching, events, and resources. Last week here in the UK, Social Work England said that they are deciding to increase their fees, and there's been a few responses to it, and I wanted to address the for and against arguments and talk about some of the solution-focused approaches we can take as social workers moving forward. Currently, the renewal fees are £90 per year, and they are proposing from the 1st of September 2025 that it will increase to £120 per year. Then there will be an annual increase of 1.85% until 2029. Now, they said in their consultation documents that they've sent to us by email that the £90 charge has been in place for 10 years. So in line with inflation, they want to increase this fee. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about why does it matter, talk about arguments in favour of the fee, arguments against it, what we can do, of course, which is important, and I'll include some stats with that and the impact that it's having on social workers and what their responses to this is. Now, I think that these changes carry significant implications for social workers, and while we absolutely know there is a need for a regulatory body, we've got to be able to align fees with our salaries, align fees with also the service that is being provided. And when we think about the climate of rising costs, it's vital, in my view, to strike a balance between maintaining professional standards and ensuring that the profession remains accessible. Now, the arguments in favour of the fee increase mainly come from Social Work England. They're saying, one, it aligns with inflation. Two, it reduces the taxpayer burden. So they're saying that increasing fees actually aims to balance the funding sources, which is decreasing the proportion of costs covered by taxpayers and ensuring a fairer distribution between public funding and registrant fees. And three, it's sustainable. They're saying that the fee adjustment is intended to provide a more stable and sustainable funding model for Social Work England, enabling it to fulfil its regulatory responsibilities effectively. I've been unable to find any other arguments that are for increasing the fees. And I think that's really interesting because there's been lots of coverage about this. There's been lots of talk about it online, but yet there is not anyone that I found, and please highlight it to me in the comments if you find anyone that says this is a good idea. So now let's talk about what are the arguments against the fee increase. There are three. One, the financial strain on us as social workers. Now, critics argue, and me included, that the fee hike imposes additional financial pressure to us as social workers, especially during a cost of living crisis. We know we've been in a cost of living crisis for a while now. It hasn't died down. The energy prices are still increasing. It's still a problem. And I think that this may exacerbate the recruitment and retention challenges that we already have in the profession. Number two is the lack of transparency. Concerns have been raised by social workers that Social Work England's transparency on what they're spending their money on and what they're getting for their fee is being questioned. And they want to know how the increased fees will be utilised and whether that's going to lead to tangible improvements in the service that they're being provided with. And number three, looking at ways in which they can be more competitive. Now, the proposed fees are going to be higher than those in other UK social work regulators, such as the Scottish Social Services Council. They're £80 per year, and Social Care Wales, they're £80 per year. So this is leading to discussions about the fairness and the justification of the increase. And that information is from Community Care magazine. So let's talk about the stats here. In 2022, BASWA, the British Association of Social Workers, published an article stating that there was an increased use of food banks by us as social workers. Yes. Now listen to this stat. The survey revealed that 65% of social workers have used food banks. This is in 2022, with 52% reporting a significant rise in food insecurity over the past year. Now, I think the implication of this is that it simply highlights there is a concerning trend of financial instability within the social work profession, suggesting that many social workers are struggling to afford the basic necessities. Think about it. That was in 2022, and we're now in 2025, and the prices of household goods, energy, etc., petrol, all of that has continued to rise. Number two, BASWA also revealed that the Social Workers Benevolent Trust reported a 65% increase in applications for financial assistance, with many social workers citing the need to use food banks to make ends meet. And the implication of that, what I'm saying, I think it shows that our salaries are just not enough and the support systems are insufficient to meet the living costs, particularly if you've got 3 or 4 children, thinking about childcare fees. This is further exacerbating the stress on social workers and potentially impacting professional effectiveness. Now, in 2023, there was a study in Social Work Education Journal which highlighted 28.5% of social work students experienced significant distress due to financial hardship, underscoring the mental health challenges associated with financial stress in the profession. The implication of this is that this statistic underscores practicing social workers, but also for students entering the field, how difficult it's going to be to maintain financial stability. And it may deter, not will, it may deter new talent from pursuing a career in social work, ultimately affecting workplace sustainability and the quality of services provided to clients. Because if you are worried about paying the bills, if you've got personal worries on any level, but particularly related to finances, it can and it will eventually impact the quality of service you're providing to your children and families. Let's think about how social workers are responding to this. I've been on social media, I've been trawling some of the comments, and I've been looking at what people are saying. Now, many social workers, they're in shock. They're in shock at the proposed fee increase. They didn't see it coming. And they're not happy that the increase is not matching a salary increase more specifically, because the living costs have increased, but the salary remains the same, but yet the fees for Social Work England are increasing. And that is making the profession look increasingly unattractive to potential recruits. And some people are even contemplating whether they want to stay. All of these are coming from comments on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. Also, there's a growing concern that local authorities who do reimburse Social Work England fees, that they may struggle with their budgets, because if they're reimbursing all these social workers, let's say there's 150 social workers in the local authority, that is going to be an increase for them as well when they are reimbursing social workers for their Social Work England registration. Are they going to be able to manage this? And if they don't, will they then place the full cost onto the social worker? Or worse, are we going to be in a position where they have to cut back funding from a service that's being provided to the vulnerable children and families? It's something to consider. Now, some social work students are contemplating not completing their degrees due to the current financial burdens, and now they've got skepticism about the profession's viability with the increase of fees. And lastly, many social workers are expressing frustration over the perceived lack of value that they receive from Social Work England, with numerous questions online arising about how the fees are actually utilised. Other social workers have said that just stop being keyboard warriors and actively contribute to the consultation. Now, Social Work England have said, you can consult with us, you can tell us your views. But some social workers are saying that the decision has already been made, it's a waste of time. Others are saying, let's not spend time on social media talking about it, let's get involved in the consultation. What do you think about that? Generally and overall, there is a disappointment over this announcement. Most people didn't see it coming. They're very upset about it, particularly at the beginning of the year, recovering from the Christmas period spend. So I think at the moment, people are still trying to digest the information and think about their future in social work alongside how they're going to manage this financially. Now, for some, you may think, well, this is not thousands of pounds. This is not, lots of money we're talking about here. But in my view, every £10, extra £10 counts, because every extra £10 that people have, they're having to spend it on living costs, looking after their children, driving to several home visits every day, every week. All of that has rising costs attached to it. So if you are saying it's an extra £30 or an extra £40 a year, that is still considered a lot of money, particularly if those social workers are using food banks and other financial assistance because they are struggling. Now, the only way to really approach this is looking at it through a solution focused lens. So I have several suggestions here, probably about 8. So I'm going to go through those now. And I want you to write in the comments what you think is most useful and the best way forward for us as social workers to move forward. Now, if you are wondering, I've been registered as a social worker for well over a decade now, and I stepped back from frontline practice in 2023 to set up the Social Work Coaching Hub. And as mentioned, I offer one-to-one coaching, which is leadership and career coaching and art therapy coaching. I have resources, books, planners and journals, and I also have events which take place here in the UK. The next event is the 20th of September in Wolverhampton in England, here in the UK, and that's the Black and Diverse Safeguarding Professionals Conference. So I say that to say this. I am not in frontline practice, but I am still registered. So this still affects me too, whether I'm in frontline practice or not. So let's look at these solutions together. Number one, the first thing for Social Work England to consider is providing clear information on where the increased fees will be allocated. Many social workers have expressed uncertainty about how their yearly fees are already spent, and with this increase, they now want answers. So, clarity from Social Work England on this matter would be beneficial for them and, of course, for the social workers that are asking that question. Wage increases. We as social workers can advocate for an increase in current wages, and that would then be in line with the fee increase. Next, tax claims. Encouraging you as social workers to explore claiming back your registrant fees if your employer doesn't cover the cost. I believe that is a possibility. Local authority support. So perhaps we need to petition to local authorities to maintain the reimbursement of fees for social workers. Although we cannot ignore that this is going to increase the cost to local authorities, which may impact the services commissioned and provided to children and families. If we're able to petition to them to maintain that they will reimburse those that do, that will be helpful for social workers overall. Perhaps Social Work England need to look at a fee structure revision. So propose moving to a biannual or a tri-annual renewal. And that may lower the anxiety that social workers are feeling about the increase of these fees and alleviate the financial pressure on social workers. Next, increased bursaries. I know this is ongoing. For social workers, but we have to continue to say, advocate for increased bursaries for social work students, particularly for first year students to support their education during ASYE. And what I would say there is perhaps maintaining that £90 registration fee for the first year of employment for social workers, just so they have some financial stability. Perhaps thinking about Social Work England increasing to suggest that Social Work England limit fee increases to single adjustment this year. So basically increase it this year, but keep it there for 10 years rather than implementing annual increases. National consideration. Urging Social Work England to consider aligning fee structures with other social work regulators. Or we already mentioned that Wales and Scotland, they have an £80 fee right across the board. And perhaps Social Work England are to consider how they could become more in line with that £80 rather than increasing the cost to us. And then lastly, maybe, and obviously we don't know all the mechanics behind the funding source, but maybe Social Work England could consider finding another funding source instead of us social workers being the one that foot the bill. So, in conclusion, the proposed 33% increase in registration fees by Social Work England, it has raised significant concerns among social workers. They are really worried about it. And you have those that are frustrated and angry about it as well. And given the current financial pressures faced by everybody, but of course us in the profession, I believe that these fees should not be increased at all. However, if a fee increase is deemed necessary, it should be fixed at the new rate for a minimum of 10 years, as I mentioned before, and this will provide stability for social workers and allow them to plan their finances accordingly. Furthermore, I personally advocate for extending the current registration fee of £90 for at least the first year of practice for student social workers in their first year of practice, and I think that would ease the financial burden on them just entering the profession. You know what it's like when you've just finished your social work degree, you don't have any money, right? And that would encourage retention perhaps in the field that's already struggling with recruitment. Now, as financial stress is closely linked to increased psychological distress, particularly among those struggling, already struggling, have been struggling financially, having to use food banks, it's crucial to consider the impact of these fees on social workers' well-being. A study from work in the health professions highlights that financial worries can lead to feelings of hopelessness and worthlessness, and especially to those with limited coping resources. So whilst we're not talking about thousands of pounds, as I mentioned before, an extra £10 right now, it costs everything, right? Because everything else is increasing. So given the high level of concern surrounding this issue, it will be highly beneficial, I believe, for Social Work England to provide further transparency, answer the questions that social workers have regarding the services received for the fees and the increased fees. And I believe that's going to help instill trust in social workers regarding Social Work England and the work that they do. Now, it's undeniable that Social Work England has employees, it has its own costs, and they need to be covered, right? So it could be argued that these financial burdens shouldn't fall solely on us as social workers, but it is someone else's responsibility, perhaps through government funding or another source, because as it stands, it may feel like the proposed increased fees may feel like punishment. I've seen a social worker put that in one of the comments on Instagram. This feels like a punishment for being a social worker, right? So if you're already struggling financially and then this is just dropped in all of our inboxes just like that, for them, it feels like a punishment. So in conclusion, any proposed fee increase should prioritise the well-being of us. We're the ones on the front line. It should also prioritise our financial stability. We should be looking at other funding sources as well instead of it being placed onto us. And the overall impact on the profession, that includes local authorities because it increases costs to them as well. We've got to continue to support those who dedicate their lives to serving vulnerable communities. That's us. That's what we do. Right? And we've got to ensure the profession remains attractive for future recruits because we need the profession, we need the social workers in order to keep people safe as the years go by. Right? It's just like the population, as the elderly begin to die, we need the younger and the mid-age people to continue the working pattern, right? So we need that in social work. Our children and families need us. They need us. So my last point is this: if all else has failed, my last point is this: participate in the consultation that they've offered. ensure that your voice is heard. Social Work England have invited us to share our views. I will be doing so. And regardless of whether we believe our input will make a difference, whether we believe our input would be heard, it's essential to seize the opportunity to respond to that consultation invitation. So my last question to you is this. What specific changes would you like to see from Social Work England to ensure that your voice is well represented in their decision-making process regarding the increase of these fees? Please like, comment and subscribe. Wrong side. There we go. Like, comment and subscribe to this channel. Please put your views into the comments and I will see you soon.